All right, part two, central tendency. Let's talk a little bit more about the mean, the median, and the mode, and get into some of the details there. All right, the mean is the most common measure. It's only appropriate when we have interval or ratio variables because it does involve a little bit of math. Scores here are influenced by extreme scores, or what we sometimes call outliers, or skewed data. It's not going to be particularly useful for skewed distributions, and we'll see, in fact, it can be quite misleading with skewed distributions. The median is the score that's exactly in the middle of the distribution. That means half of the scores are above, half of the scores are below. If you have an even number of scores, the median is just going to be the arithmetic average of those two middle points. The median is also called the 50th percentile. You may be familiar with things like percentiles from standardized tests. One of the ways they give you your results is in terms of a percentile. Say you scored in the 85th percentile. 85th percentile would be the score where 85% of people scored below you. So the 50th percentile would be, half of the scores are below. Also, half of the scores are above in that case. It's appropriate for interval and ratio variables, but less commonly used and less useful in future calculations than will be the mean. However, we'll see that the median is really useful when we have data that are skewed because it's less sensitive to those extreme scores. The mode is the score that appears most commonly. One problem with the mode is that you can, in some distributions, have multiple modes. It's going to be useful for ordinal and nominal data. Those are situations where the mean doesn't really make much sense to use. May also be useful for interval ratio variables, but not used at all in future calculations. All right. Getting to some formulas. The formula for the mean is noted as x with a bar over it, and that's equal to sigma x, so the sum of x. So when you see x, sigma x, it just means add up all the scores. Add up all the scores, divide by n, which is statistics, which is pretty standard in statistics for the total number of scores. So we add them up, divide by the total number of scores. I think most of you have probably calculated averages in this way before, but here it's kind of formalized with some symbols. As an example, if we are looking at exams, and let's say one graduate assistant graded some, another graduate assistant graded others, we can do some comparisons and some calculations. So here are the scores for the exams graded by the first graduate assistant. You can see range from 57 to 94. To calculate the mean, I simply take each of these scores, add the actual scores up, and then count out how many people there were. There were 2, 4, 6, 8 scores. The top part becomes 600 when I add all those up. The bottom part is 8. I divide one by the other, and that gives me 75 for the mean for that set of scores. So the average score in terms of the mean for the first graduate assistant, the exams the first graduate assistant graded was 75. The median and the mode. The median, we just need to find where the middle point is. There's 8 scores, so actually the middle is where we've got 4 above and 4 below. I've got that little line there to show where that split is. When we have an even number of scores, we need to just simply take the average of the two middle scores. So we've got 75 and 75, they're both 75, so the average is, the median is 75. The mode, that's the score that occurs most commonly. There's 2 75s and everything else just appears once, so 75 would also be the mode in this case. Let's take a look at another example. Here's a different distribution of scores. These are the ones graded by a second graduate assistant. We can see here, if we apply the same formula, we take each individual exam score, add it up, divide by the total, we again get a mean of 75. The median would again be 75, and the mode, the most common score, would again be 75. What's interesting about this, and then we'll explore this in another section, is if you look at these two sets of scores, there's clearly some differences between them. The one ranges from 57 to 94, the other ranges from 71 to 79, yet they both produced exactly the same mean, median, and mode. And this kind of speaks to some of the limitations of the measures of central tendency as the only way to explain the distribution shape.